Hello and welcome back to Cross Stitch for Beginners, video number 3. So the last video we learned how to loop start, how to separate strands from a thread, and how to start our pattern. So I don't have all of my triangles finished yet, but my thread is running low. So I'm going to show you how to tie off a thread and how to start a new one and where to start a new area on the pattern. So when your thread is low and you need to change it out, you can go a little lower than this if you'd like, but it does tend to get a little more dicey to get your needle under your stitching. So what we generally do to avoid making knots, my back is very messy, so don't worry about that. It's not a big deal. I got a little tied up in knots here. Where was I? Yes, so when you finish your thread, you can tie it in a knot. There's no rule that says that you can't. The only reason most cross-stitchers don't do knots is because when we frame it behind glass, sometimes the knots can make little bumps that are visible through the glass. Sometimes it doesn't happen. I have framed a few pieces that have knots that you can't even tell that there's anything there. If knots are easier for you to do and make it more enjoyable for you, then you go right ahead and you make a knot. But I will show you how to do it without making a knot. It's very easy. We're going to take the back of our stitching, and you see this is our front, this is our back, and all these vertical little lines here, you can, here. We're going to take our fabric out of our hoop to make it a little easier. It's a small space to work with, so sometimes it's easier if you have a bigger hoop. All right, so these vertical lines here, I'm gonna get into focus on the camera, sorry. Come on, camera, work with me. There we go. So you're gonna take your needle and you're gonna just slide it underneath the loops. It's fairly easy to do. You might just need to wiggle your needle just a little bit, but I usually go under 5 or 6. There's no right amount, just enough to keep a tail under there. And then we're going to pull our needle through, and that will pull the thread. There we go, sorry. That will pull the thread through, and now we're here instead of here. And from there, you can cut your thread, and that will keep the thread secured. Can you pass me my scissors, please? Thank you. Thank you, sweetheart. So you just take your little snippers and just cut off right there, and you won't unravel. It will stay right there, nice and snug and secure. Now, if you don't loop start, I'm going to show you how we will start another thread without the loop start, because sometimes you have to. When you are continuing in another area with the same color, instead of starting with a brand new thread and leaving a large amount of your old thread, what you can do is start this way, and it's basically the reverse of what we just did. So we're going to keep going with the orange because I am not finished with it. So this is where those little pieces that you leave on your bobbin come in handy. So we're going to rethread the needle. Would leave a little bit of a tail. This one's going to be a shorter tail because it is a shorter string. You always want to be about half or about 3/4, depending on how long your string is. I'm going to put that back in the hoop. There we are. And tighten it up. Sometimes you might get little dirty pieces here on your fabric. When you're done with your cross stitch, you can wash it. Cold water with Dawn dish soap works really well. Some people will use toothbrushes if they have stubborn stains with the dish soap, and it gets it out nice. You would lay it flat in a towel to dry. Generally, it's recommended not to put in your dryer because it can shrink and it can loosen your stitches. So now we have our new thread, but there's no loop. So we can't do our handy dandy loop start. So we're going to start as if we had a loop. So we pull it up, but not all the way. We're going to leave about a tail about that long. And we're going to kind of pin it in place with our finger so that we don't have it fly away on us. So we're going to go back and do our diagonal just like before. And in the back we can see it's above our little tail. Just pull it gently because you don't want it to slip away from your finger. And we're going to go over the little tail here to go underneath. I'm going to show you again, see if that was not clear. We're going to go over the tail to go underneath it. So we're going to come up here and we're going to do the legs again. We're going to do another diagonal. And same thing, we're going to go underneath and over the tail. So by doing it this way, we are essentially pinning, oh, I keep going out of focus here. There we go. We are essentially pinning that tail underneath our stitches. And that is how you would start without a loop. Keeps you in place. And then after about 3 or 4 stitches, you can let go with your finger. It's not going anywhere. And it keeps them nice and tidy in the back. If you want to cut off that excess, you can. Nobody's stopping you. You can make it as neat in the back as you want, or as messy as you want. Mine's fairly messy today. Sometimes I'm neat, sometimes I'm not. It's hard watching my back with the camera going. So we're just going to do this. Now, I'm not going to finish these stitches here because I want to show you a different area of the pattern before we continue on. So here on the pattern, we have our little triangles, which is the potion bottle. But then we also have triangles over here. And this is going to make like a smoky wisp kind of look to it. So what we're going to do is we're going to start up here. And I'm going to show you how we travel, basically, is what we call it. Some stitchers don't like to travel because they don't like the long threads behind their work. Sometimes if you travel with a dark thread, like a black, and when you frame it through the white fabric, sometimes you can see it. It has happened to me before. But I am sort of a lazy stitcher when it comes to that, and I don't mind traveling in my work. So we're going to travel today, and I will show you how. Basically, traveling is just the easiest way to move to another area of the pattern without having to cut your thread and restart. So how we move to another area is we have to count. So usually I start with my highest point on the pattern, just to make it easier to count. Now our little triangle that we want to start with is right here. So we're going to follow that down, and that's about at our halfway mark. And oh, also, I'm sorry, I wanted to clarify, My last video, I had counted out 8 across here. There was actually 9. I forgot to include my starting stitch. So the next row down was 11, and then it's 13, and it goes on. So I'm very sorry, and I hope I didn't confuse anyone. If you counted out 8 and then 10, as I did, just go back and put an extra stitch at the front, and it will work out. So continuing back, so we're at the middle point. So we're going to count our squares up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Because it's a lot, I always double count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So now we're going to do the same thing with our pattern. Find our middle point. Right here, that's our middle. And I always count the hole because it's easier for my needle to follow it. And I just envision that that is the bottom corner of the square. So I'll count 1, 2, 3. Am I close enough for you? Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. I poke my needle through just so I don't lose my spot. And we'll start it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Same number twice. That's good for me. So now we're going to not bother cutting off our thread. We're just going to pop it on up. So you always go from the back to the front. And on our pattern, it's just one little square. Just one. So we're going to do just one. So this is where you would do the full stitch, the full cross stitch at one time. And a diagonal up here. And there we go. One lone little stitch. This can also be called a confetti stitch. Our little sparklies down here would be considered confetti stitches, we call them. And that's basically stitches that are just floating in nothing. Some people that don't travel, the ones that don't like to travel, they will do those confetti stitches individually by themselves with knots or without knots. And you can entirely do that yourself. I don't enjoy that. It's just too much work for not much of a reason for myself. So I travel. This is what traveling looks like. We have that long little string going to our next spot. Generally, I base it on how long of a travel it's going to be. If I were to cut here and tuck it under and tuck it under, it's about the same equal length. So I don't mind traveling that far. I'm not losing any thread. That's my biggest concern with traveling too far of a distance, is you're losing a lot of that thread that's just sitting there doing nothing. So this way here, it's just a little tiny bit, not a big deal. So now we have our new start up at the top. So from here, you would read your pattern again, and the next one is one over and one up. So we're going to count here. Oh, sorry. We've got one over and one up. So we're going to put it right here on the corner of our X. 1 and 1. Diagonal. And diagonal the other way. And we have our cross. There we go. So I'm going to leave you with that today. I am actually on my way to work. And I wanted to make a note also about the pattern. It does call here in the legend, it calls for these Krennic braid thread, which is a very sparkly thread, and it's to do the little sparklies here. To make it easier, we don't need to have sparkle. We can continue our color with matching up the symbol, which is also kind of what we do. If the symbol is the same, we use the same stuff. So we have a square and a heart, and we have a heart and a square. So when you come time to do these little dudes here, we're gonna use the same colors here. And we'll still get the same effect, it just won't be sparkly, that's all. If you do find a sparkly thread that you really enjoy and you love and you would like to use it on here, go right ahead, there's nothing stopping you. Krennic is a harder thread to find. You might have to find a local needle shop of your own that carries it, because I know Michael's does not, and I don't think Walmart or anything does either. So you might have to find a needle shop that would do that. So there you are. Good luck, and I hope I've been clear. Once again, just ask any questions. I will help out. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.